Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to my sewing space, and in this video I'm going to share a quick tutorial on how to make bias binding. I need bias binding for a project that I'm currently working on. My dog ripped a hole in my duvet cover, so I'm working on upcycling that fabric into several pieces for my wardrobe. And the one I'm working on now, I need several yards of bias binding. So I'm going to use a little bit of that fabric from my duvet cover to show you how to make bias binding today. If you want to make a specific amount of bias binding, you can Google bias binding calculator, and Google will offer you several sites that have different calculators you can use to figure out how much binding you need for a project. My duvet fabric does not have an obvious right or wrong side, so for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to go in with this scrap fabric that I have because it has an obvious right and wrong side. And what I'm going to do first is mark to the left and the right of this square a little red X with a washable marker. Then I'm going to cut on my bias like so. Then I'm going to turn my top triangle so that red X is at the top. And then I'm going to take my other triangle and I'm gonna match my red X, right sides together, with that red X on my other triangle. So it will look kind of like this. Go in and match my edges together, and then sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I will press that seam open. And now instead of a square, I have a parallelogram. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to mark lines on my parallelogram, equal lengths apart. I'm doing 1.5 inches. Depending on the thickness of the binding that you want, you could do these lines thicker or thinner. I've gotten to the edge and I don't have quite 1.5 inches here. So I'm just trimming up that extra. And here we go, you can see my lines that I drew. I'm going to go right sides together. I'm going to pull up the bottom tail of the parallelogram and pull down the top tail. And then I'm going to offset my lines that I drew by 1 line. And I'm going to pin right sides together along this line. And to help keep all of my lines even that I drew, 1/4 inch from my raw edge, I'm going to stick my pin right through my line that I drew. And on the other side, I'm going to make sure that the pin is also going through the line. And then just pin in place. Here's what that looks like, all pinned together. And then sew down at a 1/4 inch seam allowance and press that seam open. And you'll see here I have a tube of fabric. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut one continuous long strip of fabric following the lines that I drew. And here you go, my giant long strip of fabric. So we can finish our binding one of 2 ways. The first way is to fold the binding in half, press, open it up, fold the top half down to meet the center, press, fold the bottom half down to meet the center, press, and then fold together like so and press again. And there you go, you have double fold bias binding. That's a little time consuming. Or you can use a bias binding making tool like this one here. What you do is you thread your strip of fabric through the wide end of the bias binding maker, and you use a needle or pin to help push the fabric through, and it folds it for you. And you just press in place like this, and then you just have to fold it in half again and press it together. Much faster than doing it the other way. I will link the bias binding making tools that I have in the description. And then I just get a scrap piece of cardboard to wind my bias binding around to store it. And that's it. That's how you make bias binding. I hope this video was helpful. For more videos like this one, please be sure to like and subscribe, or make sure to subscribe if you want to see all the things that I wind up making out of this old duvet cover. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!